And the Supreme Court denied them stay, did not give them the orders, because the Supreme Court said, we don't have what is called jurisdiction of this. I want to say this, that we don't want games. We have given these people enough time. Imagine 6 months until when it was ruled in on 30th. We had 2014, we had about 26 meetings. And I want to tell you that as Yvonne, we cannot renegotiate court orders. And I want to say yesterday when our lawyer was able to reply to those
and what
to the TSC.
What was that response
lawyer.
like? What did you say in that response? What did the lawyer say?
The lawyer said very clearly that there is no time to renegotiate court orders.
Okay.
They need to comply.
So for you, comply now with the court orders. Let's talk about the role of the National Assembly in this one. We'll come to the economics of it in just a moment with Kwame Owino. But let's talk about the role of Parliament and whether it's been a key ally. In fact, the tables seem to be turning on the National Assembly and saying, why don't you reduce some of your pay and some of your allowances and give those to the teachers now that there's a looming tax hike?
First of all, I'll stick with the issue, okay? I think that some of these things are silly season. The teachers deserve a pay rise. The Parliament is an institution that makes the budget. I sit on the Education Committee. TSC is an institution that's supposed to safeguard the welfare of teachers and monitor and manage the teaching profession in Kenya. The unions rightfully represent the interests of Kenyan teachers who are constitutionally guaranteed a right to organize and fight for their interests. So I think it is very important that the TSC going forward has to act independently. What we have seen is the TSC is acting as an agent of other offices in government. The TSC making itself subservient to the Sarasaram Commission. The TSC speaking on behalf of the AG or some other forces. TSC is an independent commission in the Constitution, and it should do its mandate. If it wants to do job evaluations, it should do it. If it wants to come with performance contracts for teachers in that sector, it should do it without bringing in so many other games. But most importantly, the TSC should realize, or whoever it is they're acting for in terms of government, because TSC doesn't raise this money. TSC just has to ask Parliament. Parliament has to budget properly and give them the money, and Treasury has to release the money. So TSC, it is not TSC money,
right,
which bothers me. The TSC should be acting in the interest of the teacher. You should be blaming right now Parliament for not allocating money or Treasury for not releasing money. But TSC has taken a very strange position to be acting against the interests of the teacher.
So
if the TSC came to Parliament and said, we need money, and then Parliament at that point said there is no money, then your question would be fair to say, parliamentarians, please sacrifice some of your money for the teachers.
Okay,
but we haven't reached there. I sit on the Education Committee, and I think here the TSC is failing. TSC needs to shape up and realize it's an independent commission under the Constitution. They're protected.
Allow me to interject for a moment. If TSC came to you today and said, we need this round about 17 billion shillings to pay the teachers today, where would the money come from in your view? If you were to reorganize the budget, take a look at the monies, where would it come from? What would your suggestion be?
First of all, what we would make sure is we go ahead and make a supplementary budget. Then we see what else has to be done. But let me tell you, when we look at the question of education, it's very easy to tell teachers there is no money. But let me tell you the honest truth. These teachers, the first point of discussion was their salary to be increased 300% to 500%.
Sure.
The negotiation and the discussion happening now is simply to increase the salary of teachers between 50 and 60%. So what you're telling me is that Kenyans are comfortable to say the people who parent and educate our children, you want a basic P1 teacher to raise their salary for take-home pay from 17,000 to 21,000. And people are saying no. Why are you saying there's no money? Let us figure it out and find out. Why are we wasting money on KDF, on NYS,
so you would be able
all
to
those other
reorganize the
things?
finances.
Seal all the loopholes, yes.
All
First start by sealing the loopholes, pay our teachers well. And if we pay these teachers well, a teacher who you pay from 17,000 to 24,000 is not going to be super rich. They will spend that money.
All right, Ken, I'd like us to bring in Kwame for a moment, who deals in numbers. Ken, where would the money come from, Kwame, when we're looking at this The PS Kamau Thuge in Treasury is on quota saying there are some unpalatable options.
Yeah, I mean, there are unpalatable options. But let's start with the question you asked, and I think Ken ducked, which is about, look, because we have almost 300,000 teachers and only 20 parliamentarians, I think the way to discuss this wage issue is not to start hitting at parliamentarians again and again. Remember, this is just a 50% wage rise for for teachers, okay? But it's almost 3/4 of what Parliament spends in a year. So let's remember one thing. Our Kenyan parliamentarians may earn a lot of money, but there are few. Teachers are many, and that is a reality we must deal with. So even cutting parliamentarians' pay will not be enough to actually do this, because Parliament this year voted for itself, I think, about 25 billion, I think, which is just same as what we spend on NYS. So we should not, as Kenyans, be hung up with what Parliament earns. I think let's solve this problem. It's been with us for close to 20 years now, and I think it's time to solve it. So let's go back to what your question is. 17 billion shillings is about 0.75%. It's less than 1% of total spending. This year we are spending 2.25 trillion Kenya shillings. So it's not big in the scope of how much government spends entirely. What is, remember that from this year's budget with Parliament, which Parliament approved, we are spending 6 billion per day. So this is equivalent of an extra 3 days of spending. Now, I'm not saying it's a small amount of money, but it's just an equivalent of 3 days of spending. So what that means is we are going to have to raise this money through what means? One, higher taxes, and Parliament is just discussing right now the finance bill, so I don't know whether they'd have to talk about new taxes. That's one. Two, we'd have to go for debt, which I think is the most which is the easiest option, not necessarily the most favorable. So the PS is correct. We do not have 17 billion shillings lying in the streets for Treasury to collect. We either have to raise taxes. I don't think government is going to sell any assets this year very, very quickly. What it means, or nobody is going to give us a grant. No donor or no partner is going to give us a grant to pay teachers. They usually don't do that for salaries. They do it for the development side.
Yes.
So Parliament is going to have to make the difficult decision, especially since I hear they're on the side of teachers. Perfect, because I think that's justice if the courts have done it. We are going to either have to raise taxes, borrow more, or actually both.
Could it be that we would be able to cut some development budget money, using money that was set aside for roads, development, infrastructure? Is that another option?
Yes, that too is an option. But look, we are only 2 months into this new budget. I mean, because it started the 1st of July.
Yes.
So how do you make a decision this early that this road going between Nairobi and Makadara, or Nairobi or Jogo Road, shouldn't be constructed anyway, and you've mobilized people, you've already perhaps signed contracts and everything else. So it's too early in my view to actually talk about whether we are going to construct fewer roads or abandon the SGR, for instance, this year or anything else. What we are going to actually have to do is the options that are available, as the PS says, either raise taxes, borrow, or actually a combination of both.
All right, raising taxes, that is something you can say would be something you'd be willing to look at if the TSC came to you and said, look, we need this 17 billion. But the truth is, Ken, that is not a view that is widely shared by your colleagues across the political divide, who say this will actually open up the Pandora's box to other public servants to do the same. So do you believe then Parliament is capable of getting this money for teachers?
I think raising taxes is not the only option, so I'd hate to put it that way, that we're going to raise taxes, because the Kenyan taxpayers also, we have to realize how much do you tax people before you kill economic growth. That is something that has to be negotiated and balanced out properly, including with the business community and other employers and manufacturers and things like that. What I'm saying is the first point of call where we need to start is government wastage. There's a lot of wastage and theft at the national government level. You can ask yourself, for instance, the Ministry of Health in Nairobi. Health is a devolved function, yet the Ministry of Health in Nairobi gets 100 billion, which it was given by Parliament. Can we ask ourselves right now, what is the Ministry of Health in Nairobi doing with 100 billion of devolved government funds? Can we take out of that 100 billion from Ministry of Health and give 17 billion immediately to the teachers? Those are the types of questions we need to be asking. Let us stop a lot of wastage. The Auditor General's report came back and has shown us how much theft and corruption and wastage is happening. If you just seal those
But the
loopholes,
same Parliament, Ken, was the one that went out to deny funding to the Auditor General.
And that was
right after that.
You,
So there's not so much hope when people look at Parliament.
And this is why I would say this to Kenyans.
Yeah.
I'm a politician. Choices have consequences. Who did we vote for and give the most power? We gave an, overwhelming majority, what is known as tyranny of number jubilees. When we come there, we want to vote. You can vote whichever you want, but you can tally the votes. So I can tell you as COD, I was not on that position. So I can tell Kenyans, as long as we have a rogue Jubilee government that does not prioritize
Regardless,
education,
Ken,
they will paint teachers as selfish. That does not respect institutions.
All right.
They'll kill the Auditor General by not giving him a budget.
Ken, thank you very much. In fact, on that note, that is what then gives people the doubt that this is something that would be passed through Parliament, because there's indications that Jubilee members of Parliament do not believe that this money should be given to the teachers. So when you sit here and say Parliament can pass it, and you tell us now of the tyranny of numbers...
Yvonne, can I come in?
Let me say something.
Yes, then we'll have you, Kwame. Yes,
I want to say
Julius.
this. When it goes to... I want to support my fellow, the Mheshimiwa, for Kibra, where even our office sits is from Kibra. I want to say this. One, the other day, Mumias is down. Where was 1 billion? Number two, Kenya Airways. We are hearing the government want to bail out Kenya Airways with about 60 billion. If they can get that money, why not teachers? Teachers are not slaves. And in fact, the government that is there, yes, I may be from Jubilee. We voted for them. But I want to say this, that the government that is there today of Uhuru and Ruto is a creation. It is there because of Supreme Court.
Okay, now we're getting into political matters when I'd like to keep it about teachers, Kwame, and then we'll come to you, Hesbon.
Okay, we were discussing, and I think Ken mentioned a point, which was that the Ministry of Health, and it's true that the Ministry of Health, for a devolved function, is still spending 100 billion shillings,
right,
which is half of what all counties were given together. And so he's asking whether we can take 17 billion. And honestly, the Honorable Member for Parliament knows that budgeting doesn't take place like that. Once you've approved budgets, one of the first things that happens is that the ministry has drawn plans. So you cannot tell a ministry that we are going to cut out 17% of your money because you have to pay teachers. I mean, that's being too clever, to be honest. So the way we do it, and as he said, that taxes is something Kenyans don't want to hear, that's the truth. Yeah. But I think we have to tell Kenyans the truth. If you support the fact that teachers need to be paid against the advice of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, but the courts have withheld this, taxes have to go up. That's the basic decision. So that's one. Second, there is no option. I know that this case has just been determined, one part has been determined and it's still at the Court of Appeal.
Yes.
But the courts have decided we pay. That payment has to be made. So it's not even a decision that Parliament can say, look, we are going to consider it, whether you're in the Jubilee side or the whatever side. What they have to give is a facility that allows the Treasury and the Cabinet Secretary to find that money and make that payment. Courts have ordered.
Right.
And the last time I heard, we are supposed to accept court decisions and move on. We are going to have to do this as well.
Okay, all right. I want us to take a short break on that note and come back and talk about performance and pay for performance and the whole touchy issue of job evaluation. We will come. No, we absolutely have to take a break first. Hesbon, I'm coming to you. You will be my first port of call when we return from this commercial break. Stay with us. Making it very simple. There's 100 billion here. Remove 17 and put it here. It sounds fairly simplistic. It's not like my budget for the kitchen. No, for the kitchen where I have 100 shillings for tomatoes. But I need...
I said I'm being clever, but here's the explain.
Unachapa your own side.
They don't pay me.
Let us look at this loophole.
You know, teachers in this country are watching. Niongee until election young next year. I'll go home.
Let them be safe. There is a lot of money disappearing. That's
Uhuru and Doka my village man. Don't job, but I don't care. I'll leave or leave.
Okay.
Really?
Yes, quite. Yes.
No. How many?
How
much? Alafu nichezee zile za TSC boss. Kwani nataka nikukumbushe? You don't remember the ones we started with,
Wait.
TSC? And I sent you a text. And then, where are my cuts?
Ole, bye
The other
bye.
cover shots?
Okay.
Maya.
The TSC
That's
sijaona.
fine. I think they should just prepare to pay.
Na niliziit, I called for them in the
First thing,
beginning.
They should obey the court order. Then
They
the
should obey
rest, Then the rest they can sort out.
Aya,
You
asante
see, on
sana.
the, as an
Yes.
economist, you have a right to argue the way you are arguing because we are looking at facts and figures. But if you go to the real situation,
Who tweets for you guys?
the government is not being real. Yeah, because that money, if they want
Good.
it today,
All right.
it's just
Good,
like in your
good,
house.
good. Thank you.
You can say, let me reduce.
Yes, sorry, you were saying?
This
All right, welcome back to KTN Weekend Prime. We're discussing the issue of the pay rise for teachers there. And we have our panel representatives from KNUT, KUPET, in Parliament, as well as an economist with us this evening. And before the break, we wanted to talk about the issue of evaluation, job evaluations. You're against the SRC. Yes.
Before you come to job evaluation.
Very quickly, because
Yes,
we really
very
need to move the
quickly
discussion
on an
forward.
item that you're talking about, how the government can raise money to pay for this. Okay, it is unfortunate that we want to raise up an issue of Jubilee and CORD. That should not come in. We are talking about a situation whereby the courts have passed that the teachers should be paid money, which the government has to get before the 31st of August, so that we avoid the inevitable.
Which is just 2 days away.
Yes. So what we are saying is we have very many loopholes even before we come to a situation where we are telling the government that the taxes have been to be increased. We have a lot of tax evasion in this country. And these areas where we have tax evasions are the areas that the government can look at. Which are these loopholes? We know, and it is in the public domain, that very many people evade taxes. So they should be followed to pay. And again, the government should look at issues of sealing areas of corruption. Because again, there is a lot of corruption. Even when the report came out, and you saw even in the State Department of Education, billions of shillings, almost 20 billion, had disappeared.
Okay.
So there are areas in which, before we go and tax the wananchi, this country can get money to pay only 17 billion for teachers.
Okay.
Yes.
In the event that the government says by the time they look into those other loopholes, but that they're going to tax the common wananchi and increase the taxes, as Kwame says, might be one of the options that they're looking at. That is something that the Kenyans will have to live with to pay the teachers, right? Because this is a court order
You
that must
see,
be complied with.
The
Yes?
issue of increasing taxes does not lie on the teachers. It lies on the demands of the government to meet its budget.
That's right.
So that one is there. When
So
they're
if that's what they
increasing-
have to
when they're
do-
increasing the taxes, even us as teachers will
You're
be
paying the
affected
same
because we are
taxes.
paying 30%.
Okay.
And actually, even that 17 billion that you're talking about, if you subtract 30% of it, because that will go back to the government. What will remain to go to the teachers? You should
Right.
first of all ask yourself that. But it might not be 17 billion as you are saying it, because when you give 30%, it might even reduce to 13 or 14 billion. And then again, that money coming into the teacher's pocket. Now, when teachers will increase the economies of even the small shopkeeper, boda rider, and even in our own 17% that we are going to be given, we are also going to give the same taxes in terms of value-added tax.
Absolutely.
So
Hesbon,
we
I'd
are
really
going to
like us
give
to move away
government a
from
lot of
taxes for a
money.
moment
Yes.
and talk about evaluation of teachers. If you can, in about a minute, talk to us about why teachers are opposed to job evaluation being done by the Salaries Commission.
There is a mistake. We are not opposed to job evaluation. We are opposed to SRC carrying it.
That was
and
my
it
question.
Was passed.
Yes.
It was passed in the one of the decisions of the industrial court was that SRC has no business carrying out job evaluation. That job evaluation can be done between the employer and the employee. In this
Okay.
case, the Teacher Service Commission and the teachers who are represented by the unions.
All right.
And we can carry out very smartly job evaluation because
So
we
not
know what
opposed
to
to
do.
evaluation
But
just
SRC
by the SRC.
Yes.
Okay, Julius?
I want to say that job evaluation cannot be used to gauge salary. I want to say that job evaluation is something that is ongoing.
So job evaluation
You don't
does
use it
to
because
gauge
you
the
want
salaries.
because of salary.
Okay.
SRC is using job evaluation only to do what? It's a way of derailing what teachers want to bargain. Job evaluation must be used even to see issues of working hours. You can use it for maybe even the terms of the workers.
Also
but
the
you cannot
output.
use it to
Also,
gauge
Julius, shouldn't it
for
also be the
salary.
output of the teachers?
Yeah?
Shouldn't it also be used to gauge the output and
If we
performance
go
of the
for
teachers?
job evaluation is there even in teachers. It must not be only written. When we go to in schools, when we go to primary, teachers, there is scheme of work, there is register, there is even co-curricular activities.
So
Teachers
it's
are
already
there.
being done,
It is
you're
there.
saying.
It's only
Okay.
that it's not written.
All right.
When you go to high school, there is MINSCO. There is a school that is having 7.8. There is a school that has performed well. Like the other day, we were in Arusha, in Rwanda, and schools were performing well. You get Maseno, you get big schools like even Alliance, you get schools like Kosrai.
Okay.
They
All
are
right.
there.
All right, I'd like
so
to
job
bring in...
evaluation should not only be, it's not paper.
Okay, so what you're saying is it
Yeah.
shouldn't be tied to this conversation and they shouldn't be
Yes.
happening at the same time.
Leave that,
Understood.
that one is a colonial way.
Understood.
It's a tool used by the government.
Thank you, Julius.
Tool
Let's-
used by Sarasrem.
All right.
Yeah.
Can we have Ken talk about this quality of teaching as well?
I think
Because
we-
that's also an important discussion.
Yeah, I think, and this is where it is important to address this to the teachers, to the parents out there. The parents of the children are counting on you to deliver quality education.
That is it.
And they are wondering, even if we get to a point where we have to tax them more, are their children getting quality education? And this is a discussion even the national government, the opposition should be having and saying, what is the standard of education and the quality outcomes that we expect from our children in our schools
That is it.
that will get us to Vision 2030? Because frankly, if you look at the work that public school teachers are doing, under very difficult circumstances, I understand for sure. But the fact is that half of the children in Kenya are failing Standard 8 exam, half of the children are failing Form 4 exams. So we have to start asking ourselves, what is it in our schools and the teachers we've given responsibility, and what do we need to change?
And is it
What
only the
type of
mean score
performance
that you
culture-
use
Yeah,
as-
but you know,
as
if a
a-
child fails,
yeah.
you as a parent wonder, what am
Right.
I going to do with this child?
Okay.
There's no opportunities. So I'm saying, let us pay teachers 100% very quality professional
Yes.
terms.
Right.
Let us attract quality people to the professions, but let the unions and the TSC work together to say teachers who are not performing, who are not doing attendance, teachers who are under teaching and are failing the children are actually committing a crime, should be kicked out, and let us get in quality other teachers who are committed.
Okay.
Because it's two sides of the same coin.
Right.
If you underpay teachers, actually many of them don't stay in the profession very
Right,
long.
right.
You don't get the best people
you don't
going in the
attract.
first place to begin
Okay,
with.
okay.
So let us also get to the discussion of you teachers must be willing to sign performance contracts, especially head teachers who run schools, to manage their school.
Okay.
Because right now it's really hard to gauge a teacher of standard 2 or 3 whether they are quality teaching, because you don't have the results until class 8. But
Okay.
the head
Yes.
teacher
So
of that
doing
school
that-
can be held
Yes.
accountable for making
Okay.
sure their teachers teach the whole time.
All right, Ken, I really need to...
on issues quality.
Yes?
On issues quality.
Yes.
As,
Very
as-
quickly,
as
'cause we're out of
unions-
time.
As
Yes.
unions, we have always been interested to have quality education in Kenya. That is our key mandate. First of all, you should remember that before we become trade unionists, we are professionals. And anything that can compromise quality, we are not for. But we say that we have ingredients that bring quality. And these ingredients have to be addressed. We have always been talking about quality teachers, proper training that match the level of the current academic
So if,
situation. Then let me
Hesbon,
finish. Let
one
me
moment,
finish.
because,
We
we're
have
running out of
the
time, and I
issue-
really need
No,
to
no,
make
no.
sure we
Yes,
get
we
the
are going
issues
to
out.
finish. We have the issue of quality environment and quality tools which are needed to ensure that we provide quality education. You can give people and you can give teachers to schools, but if you do not give quality environment and quality tools, don't expect quality.
Okay, thank you. Julius, one word,
I want to
please.
say this. If they pay teachers 50 to 60%,
Yes.
we want to finish issues of salaries so that we go on issues of quality. We can look at now issues of performance, how teachers are supposed to improve.
All right.
On
So
discipline.
we finished the
But
issue
because
of...
of this,
All right, Julius, I just want to understand your line of thought. So we finished the issue of paying the
so that we
teachers
do
first.
deal other things.
So pay them first, and then we discuss quality.
We deal to the next, another level.
So we pay you first, and then
Yes.
discuss quality.
Yes.
So we can't have the two conversations
We
concurrently?
cannot now.
Okay. Kwame?
I think this is where I disagree with this gentleman. Look, your ultimate payer in the end is the government. You may talk about TSC. TSC doesn't raise any money. And by government, I mean both Parliament, which has to approve,
Right.
and the executive. And obviously now the courts, the judiciary is listening to your case. Very rarely do you have, and I'm employed as well, very rarely do you have somebody who's actually an employee telling his employer that, no, you pay me first, then I'll discuss with you what quality to deliver. It never happens like that. It never. And so that's the first part. So yes, I think teachers must be. Now, you may accept some tools, and some tools may not be accepted, but the quality of teaching in Kenya, based on the feedback from parents, is poor. We cannot deny that, and we cannot brush it up on the view that, look, we are not paid well enough. So in my view, I think as part of, because you lose public support if you continue with this view. Parents going into schools, like we saw several months back, and actually beating up headmasters. You must have all teachers subjected to some kind of formal assessment about their performance, or some feedback that allows them to do that, so that we have a view about what kind of people are we attracting in the pipeline of teaching, and what kind of tools and all that are they allowed with. The National Union of Teachers and the unions, to be honest, have spoken too much, enough as a taxpayer, I think, about how much you should be paid. Fine, I'm prepared to concede that to you, in as much as I also accept that it will be a big, big, big burden to the taxpayer in Kenya.
Okay.
But you cannot run away from the question of quality of education.
Okay.
It is bad, and it needs to improve.
All right, I absolutely have to close it there. I'm sorry, gentlemen. We really have to close. I think we've all had our views on that. Kwame Wino, Hesbon Otieno, Julius Korir,
no, but you know
and
this one.
Ken
You see,
Okoth.
when
I
issue,
don't have time, gentlemen.
when issue quality is raised, I want to tell you that we believe we have to provide quality.
Thank
There's
you.
no shortcut about
There
it.
is no shortcut. Please,
But
We need a
please
different teacher.
understand.
But when we are providing quality, we also need to be hard, because we are not always talking salary. We are also talking about quality. That is why we say employ more teachers.
Okay, I
Yeah.
think your point has been made.
Yes.
Gentlemen, thank you. You have mentioned the teaching tools. You've mentioned the environment in which you work, and we thank you for that. Kwame Wino, Hesbon Otieno, Ken Okoth, and Julius Korir, thank you very much. This discussion continues on social media.